Thank you very much. Of course, Turkish geopolitical location necessitates a multidimensional foreign policy. That has been my argument when I was in academic life and in political life. If you look at geopolitics today, what we are talking, I came from Turkey. Now there is a NATO summit in Ankara, and they feature the most critical, one of the most critical summits in NATO history because of the gap between EU, Europe in general, and US. Yesterday, when I was listening President Trump in press conference with President Erdogan, he was saying that there is an ocean between us and Europe. This ocean is not just a geographical terminology. This is difference of opinion, difference of strategy. First of all, Turkey as a member of NATO, and Turkey as future member, I hope, of EU, is a bridge in that sense between NATO and EU. If EU one day wants to be a strategic player, how can it be achieved this? EU today, even between EU and Europe, there is a difference. Because EU does not include all European countries. After Brexit, this question is also much more valid than before. Britain, Norway, Turkey, three most important countries of NATO are not members of EU. They are not in EU consultation processes. If EU wants to be as a global player in strategic-wise, they have to find a way out. First, how to integrate non-EU NATO members like Britain, Turkey, Norway into their strategy, then also to have a strategic vision how EU can be again a hope for Balkan countries, for Eastern European countries. This is the basic challenge. If today, assume that imagine the map, what are we talking? Where are the geopolitical flashpoints? I can say from Baltics to Black Sea to Caspian Sea to Gulf, one wing. And the other one is from Baltics to Eastern Europe, to Eastern Mediterranean, to Red Sea, and to Gulf. So today we are talking on Ukrainian crisis in the first geopolitical zone. We are talking on Iranian question between Caspian Sea and Gulf. And also we have many critical issues, including Palestine, Somalia, Sudan in the next. So all the great players, Russia, China, US, they have some sort of a strategy towards this region. China wants to be the one road, one belt corridor through all these. And China has been very surprisingly quite active in Gaza issue, inviting all Palestinian leaders to Beijing. Also very effective in Gulf. Similarly, Russia is trying to restore its influence there. US is already in the region as a part of a war. Where is EU? This is the question. What is EU's strategic vision for the future? When I was negotiating with European partners, I was always saying, without Turkey, EU cannot be a real global strategic power. Because of Turkish location, in between, in the center of all these world events, we have Turkey. And Turkey does not have any even consultative mechanism with EU. So the question is, does EU really want to be a global player? If EU wants to be a global player, if EU wants to be an influential player in the Middle East, in Central Asia, in Black Sea, Caspian Sea, Gulf, Turkey is the only bridge, the only key, the only element for such a strategic player. Yesterday, when Trump landed to Ankara, Macron was in Damascus. How can anybody say today that EU can have a strategic vision towards Syria without consulting Turkey? Can the EU do it? Because Turkey has paid the price during civil war. Millions of refugees came to Turkey. I personally was blamed because of my approach towards Syrian people to help them. And now it is time to see the results. And suddenly, without paying any price, EU wants to be in Middle East. EU wants to be everywhere. Just to conclude, one very short and clear sentence. Without Turkey's membership or strategic coordination, EU cannot have a global strategy. And without European values to be respected, Turkey cannot be a global player. We have to defend European values, yes, adopt European values, but Europe itself should adopt European values. How can European countries support Netanyahu when there has been a genocide in Gaza? This is the question mark. So Europe has to restore itself. Turkey has to make a new assessment regarding EU. And thanks, I have my dear friend Boris Tadic here. We have to have a regional ownership in Balkans. Regional ownership means Turkey, Bosnia, Herzegovina, and Serbia. We had trilateral process with President Tadic. So with all these parameters, together, Turkey and Europe can be global players. Without each of them, none of them can be global players.